sound. We can hear it and we can feel it, but can it be used to heal us? My name is Russ Lateau, and that is the topic for this episode of the Health Files. To begin our journey on exactly how sound could be not only beneficial for our emotions but also for our body, we need to take a crash course in what makes up matter and how substantial or insubstantial it really is. And so quantum physics has shown us that matter really is not made up of matter, at least not anything that we would consider to be solid. What it really is made up of is energy at vibrating different frequencies. And so what appears to us as a car, what appears to us as a boat, what appears to us as a singing bowl is merely energy vibrating at different frequencies. Now let's jump from the science classroom to an entertainment aspect. So I'm sure we've all been and listened to a live band that is played, and sometimes, it sounds good, but maybe the rhythm guitar player or maybe the bass player is just a little bit off, maybe a little bit out of time, and what started off as this wonderful wall of sound, all of a sudden what we hear amongst all of that is this bass player that's playing a little bit out of time. And it just stands out and we notice it. So the philosophy of how sound and the aspects of its healing properties and abilities is based on simply that. So if we go upon the philosophy and the theory that what we consider to be solid is really energy vibrating at different frequencies, think of our bodies as a band or an orchestra, and when everything is in unison, everything is in harmony, we have that wall of sound. Everything is functioning, the different organs are speaking to each other, the electrical circuitry is flowing as it needs to flow. And then what happens is the bass player. The bass player begins to kind of get out of time. And so, to use that analogy and apply it to our bodies, when a frequency slips out of resonance for whatever reason, it begins to cause a disharmony in our entire body, which is then manifest through into the physical. Now, why does sound help? And now we're going to go into a very short, abbreviated discussion of the different types of sound. So why does the sound or the frequency, let's say from the healing bowl, or maybe a piece of music that is nice and flowing and harmonious, how does that differ from, let's say, the honking and the squealing of tires from a downtown city in rush hour? Well, and this is one thing that different practitioners that use sound speak of, is that the more natural the source, the more balanced the frequencies. So for instance, a singing bowl like the one that you saw in the beginning of this episode, or different music that is very harmonious and flowing, has a very balanced frequency, is very organic, as opposed to honking horns and cars and tires squealing, which is obviously not a quote-unquote natural source for the sound, and therefore is not, as I will use the word, harmonious or balanced. Now I'm going to go back to our analogy of a band. I used to play in a band many years ago, and one of the things that I discovered was that the drummer was the cornerstone. And if that drummer could keep time, and if that drummer could just not be thrown off by, and I will use the example of this poor bass player that slips out of time, if the drummer can just focus and continue to drum, continue to hold the beat, continue to be steady, and not be drawn out of time or out of resonance or out of harmony with the bass player, what would tend to happen is the bass player would begin to be drawn back into that steady beat, slips back into that wall of sound. The same philosophy and theory applies to healing with sound. Natural source healing has a balanced, steady, strong frequency. So what happens is, when our bodies, in which we have now learned is different energies vibrating at different frequencies, when our bodies are in the presence of this natural, solid, balanced sound, which is a frequency, then what will happen is any dysfunctions or disharmonies or imbalances in our body will begin to become stabilized or balanced because they are in the presence of this very balanced natural frequency. In a nutshell, we are the bass player, and the natural sources of sound, whatever that may be, is the drummer. The drummer is solid, the drummer is steady, which causes those imbalances within us to be balanced and to bring about healing. That's my opinion. This is Russ Leteau, and this has been an episode of The Health Files.